So good morning, everyone. Welcome.
Good
I'm
morning.
Roger Boutler, the CEO for Nsair, and with me today I have three Nsair members who are going to discuss with us today the benefits of volunteering with their association. So first we have Cheryl Vickers, who is an experienced realtor with Keller Williams Select in Cape Breton, and she has been there since 2005. Cheryl is an avid volunteer with Nsair and currently serves on the board of directors as an alternate regional director and is on the MLS committee, the Professional Standards Committee, the Provincial Municipal Affairs Committee, and the Bylaw Committee. We tried to talk her into serving on a couple of more committees, but time isn't infinite. Also with us, we have Christine Chason, who is an experienced realtor with Keller Williams Select Realty here in the Halifax metro area. And she has been a realtor since, I'm looking here, since the late 1980s. And currently, Christine serves on the Professional Standards Committee and the Bylaw Committee. And lastly, but not leastly, we have Alan Chase, who is the managing associate broker and a realtor with McKay Real Estate in the Valley. Alan has practiced real estate since 2009. He was heavily involved with the Annapolis Valley Real Estate Board as a volunteer, has sat as a regional director for the Valley on Nsair's board of directors, and is currently the chairperson for our education committee. So welcome, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, Roger.
Morning.
So I think the format we're going to go with today, as you know, the panel is all about volunteering and the benefits of. I'm just going to start with, in no particular order, ask you each the same question, and I have 4 questions here, and we'll go from there. So without further ado, I'm going to go start with what's on my left, which is Cheryl. Can you, well, we know your name. So the length of time you have served as a volunteer for Nsair?
I believe it was approximately 10 years ago that I decided to volunteer, and I served on professional standards. I believe it was one of my first committees. And then as that went on, it seemed very interesting, and I was learning quite a bit. So I decided to volunteer for a few others, and I got accepted, and that's basically my story.
Awesome. And you, Christine?
So it's been my pleasure to have been on the Professional Standards Committee for the past 5 years as a volunteer. I've enjoyed that very much, and I'm delighted this year to have started on the Bylaw Committee as a volunteer as well. And who knows what's to come in the future, but I've certainly enjoyed being on both of those committees, and I look forward to the next one.
Awesome. And Alan?
So I began volunteering with NSAR almost as soon as I was able to, really. I was, like Roger mentioned, I had served on the Annapolis Valley Real Estate Board for many years, and then when we merged, I believe it was in 2015 or 2016, I kind of just transferred my volunteer spirit to NSAR. Really have had a great experience, and set on again, as Roger mentioned, I was the regional director, and I chair the education committee. I'm on the technology committee this year, the bylaw committee as well, and the board governance and development committee. So it's it keeps you busy, but it also keeps you sharp. I guess that's what I always say. I mean, I really like to be involved, and that way you have a really good understanding of what's happening. And I think volunteering for me has given me a big appreciation for what NSAR does and all the people that are required to make the machine run. So
Awesome. Well, you just answered my second question, which is why do you volunteer for NSAR, and what is it like for you? So excellent segue into my question. So I'm going to go in the reverse order this time. And Christine, so why do you volunteer for NSAR, and what is it like for you?
Well, Roger, I volunteer on the committee for 3 reasons mainly. Number one, I think it's important to give back to the industry. This industry has been very kind to us, and I firmly believe that we owe it to give back and to help others who are starting out in the industry. And the second reason that, you know, I initially started on the committees and continue to be on the committees is that I think it's an opportunity for folks to learn, to expand their knowledge. I'm an educator by profession, so I firmly believe in lifelong learning. And I think it's important for everybody in every industry, not just what we do, but in every industry, to continue along with learning about their industry. And certainly industries morph, and ours has certainly morphed since the 1980s and onward. And so I think it is important to continue to learn. And so being on those committees helps me to understand, to learn, and perhaps to help others learn. And then the third reason is the interaction with like-minded individuals. We do so much today by phone, fax, emails, scanning, remote meetings, and so on, which are all very helpful. They save us time, and they're very efficient methods of doing business. But you know, the human factor is taken out of that a little bit. So I think the third reason would be, you know, to have that human interaction with my fellow realtors. And it's good to know and to get to know people with whom you are making deals on a regular basis. You're, you know, showing homes for each other's listings and so on. And I think that interaction would be one of the main reasons that I started on the committee, but certainly not the only reason, and certainly not the reason that I stay and continue to enjoy being on the committees.
Absolutely, and I think speak for everyone when I say that the human interaction has kind of been missing since March for most people because of the COVID. So it'd be nice to get back to having some in-person meetings and such. So.
You bet, you bet.
Cheryl, for you, why do you volunteer at Nsair, and what's it been like for you?
Well, Roger, I had an excellent experience with Nsair because prior to being involved, I didn't fully understand how much Nsair had to offer. And I feel since I started volunteering with Nsair, the way I look at things is more objective than I have in the past. And I encourage anybody to volunteer with Nsair because it's only easy to look at something from the outside, but when you're actually sitting in that room and you're making decisions and you're looking at policies and you're looking at different benefits, and the education from it alone is simply amazing. You can learn so much from many different people in there, the diversity of opinions. It really means a lot, and you just get a true experience of what Nsair has to offer, and they have so much to offer, as opposed to just sitting back and taking a look and saying, well, I belong to an organization, but I'm really not sure how everything sectors in, and so on and so forth. It's been an amazing experience. Especially I really enjoy professional standards. When you start getting, you're sitting down in the room and you're analyzing how other people look at things, and you're looking at different situations, and it really does give you an objective way of looking at different aspects of this industry. And I thank you all for allowing me to be a part of it.
Well, we thank everyone, for all of our volunteers for committing their time. I mean, it is an undertaking, but it's definitely, in my mind, a great way to give back to the industry, which kind of leads me into my next question, which isn't scripted, but it's something that you've all touched on it in a way, and I would like to get your feedback on that. Is what advice would you give to new realtors who have been in the industry 1 to 2 years on why they should perhaps get involved with a task force or a committee? And I'll start with Christine. I haven't started with you yet.
Okay. So I believe that coming into this industry, there's a whole lot more to learn in the day-to-day goings on, you know, when you become a realtor and you're out there and you're doing the do every single day of your life. And there are so many things to learn. And I think being on a committee accelerates that learning process. It better understands the back office, if you will, about why things are done and how they're done. I would highly recommend that a new realtor, somebody new to the industry, get involved in as many things as they can, take as many courses as they can, go on as many committees as they can. It gives them a chance to make themselves known to the other industry members, but certainly getting to know industry members who are also on those committees. I think that's really important. So we become like the 5 people with whom we surround ourselves the most. And if we are surrounding ourselves with folks who are giving back to their industry, who are volunteering, and who are again learning through those committees and through interacting with people who are also again like-minded and wanting to make the industry better, then I think that you become like those folks. And certainly there's lots to be said about learning around, but also learning up. So some folks have been in the industry and have had different experiences for longer than others, and especially for new people, it's very important to learn from the old folks who have been in for a long time.
Yes, for sure.
Alan, any
Boy,
advice
that's a
you'd give
tough one to follow, because I feel really the same way as Christine does. I mean, it's like I started volunteering when I was very new as an agent, almost as soon as I could. I think at the Valley we had to serve for a year, be licensed for a year before you could serve on a committee. And so as soon as that year was up, I sought out an opportunity there, and it really did. It accelerated that process, that education process, like Christine had mentioned, and it really gets you, you kind of jump in feet first, and you continue every day, you continue to learn something new. And I think that there's so many things that can be thrown at you, and there's so many things that I've learned and tools that I've taken from Nsair as far as how to handle certain situations. It's just made me a better real estate agent. It's made me a better person. And for me, I haven't really ever regretted at any point volunteering my time, because I feel like I get more out of it than I put into it. As far as for what's asked of me, I certainly, there's times I feel guilty because I learn so much and take so much from Nsair. So with the little bit that I give back, it doesn't even compare, really.
Great. And Cheryl?
Well,
Anything to add?
between Christine and Alan, I think they pretty much covered everything. It's a great opportunity to learn, and you learn from your peers. And unless you actually put yourself in the seat and volunteer, I encourage it to any new realtor. They'll really benefit from it for sure.
Great, thank you. So I want to ask, go in turn here, and I think I'll start with Cheryl, you again. What's one of your biggest takeaways from volunteering at Nsair? One thing that you've...
One of the biggest things I think I can take away is when you can actually see the accomplishments made, and you can see, like, for example, there was things through government relations that we implemented into our day-to-day real estate transactions. And when you can see all your efforts going towards something, for example, like that, the benefit from actually saying, okay, well, you know what, all our hard work and moving forward, this is what we accomplished. And when you can sit down and with others, it opens your mind. It gives you a totally different perspective. Sometimes we get tunnel vision, we do things certain ways, but when you're sitting down with other realtors and you're getting educated from them as well, and I think that's one of my biggest takeaways would be the experience I get and the education I get in everything that we accomplish. It really is a really wonderful feeling.
Alan, your biggest takeaway from volunteering at Nsair?
Well, other than just the sense of the sense of pride to represent such a great organization, I think that for me, it's allowed me to and I think someone else, I think it might have Christina, maybe Cheryl even mentioned it. It allows me to be more objective, and certainly within my career, when I'm dealing with another member, and I can see, every time I enter into, an agreement or negotiations or anything, I always try to look at it from all sides. So I really try not to focus on just me and, I'm going to protect my client, obviously, but I also want to make sure that everyone in the transaction is being treated fairly, and that I see everyone's side, and it helps. I think it helps make things go a lot smoother, and it just helps things move along a lot better when you can see it from, you can understand where someone else is coming from, and it allows you to just, it just allows you to do a better job, I think. So that's my big takeaway. It's just allowed me to, again, have a more objective look at everything, like Cheryl had mentioned, and instead of being so internal, you really can get to, you make it about everybody and make sure everyone has a good experience.
Yeah. Always two sides to every argument, they say.
Yeah, no question.
Christine, for you?
So I agree with all of that. I think it is a learning experience and how to be objective. And again, it comes from the anonymity in our business, is that it's easier to understand somebody when we've interacted with them instead of just emails and texts. And sometimes the tone can be misunderstood. So being on the committee, I think, has helped me, and I would hope that it would help others to become more educated on the rules and regulations. Roger, many errors are repairable. I think folks usually make errors because there is a need for maybe more education for them as an individual. And so certainly understanding, as Alan had mentioned, understanding where that person's coming from and realizing that they just didn't understand or just didn't know what that rule or regulation was. So, I think also ensuring that our industry continues to move toward a more professional environment. And I really believe that comes through education. And part of that education is volunteering in your industry, not standing on the sidelines, but becoming part of it and meeting the folks around you. I think being on a committee helps us to learn and to have a better understanding of the relationships in this industry. I think everybody is out there trying to do a really good job. Sit down. My dog is with me here. I think everybody is trying to do a really good job. I think everybody works very, very hard and very diligently. And most of the time it's just either a misunderstanding or just not quite understanding. So my takeaway is would be certainly to, I would say have a better understanding of the way people think and their mindset and that kind of thing.
Great. A very common theme there, for sure, is it makes you a better realtor by volunteering, or at least better equipped to deal with both parties in negotiations and such. So one of the I guess reasons that we hear on a consistent basis is what from people as to why they do not volunteer. It's not that they don't want to, is they have I guess a fear of the time commitment. So maybe I'll get each of you to touch on. Now I know Cheryl, you sit on just about every committee Nsair has. So I'll start with you on this one. Like, can you alleviate some of the fears? I guess if someone, just starting out, I get it. They're new to the industry. They perhaps have a young family. What is the actual time commitment to serve on a committee? Just pick one of the committees that you sit on. Perhaps let's just go through here. Let's just say the PMAC committee, for example. That's a fairly active committee. How much time do you actually commit to that committee?
How much time you actually commit to it in meetings and so on and so forth. You may meet maybe 6 a year. To me, that's not a lot of time, considering the amount of accomplishments you can get from that. So for me, I don't find it time consuming. You make the time and you become educated from it, and it's time well serving. And I honestly don't think that I sit on a lot of committees, but for me, it's not a huge time restraint, and I'm a busy realtor. So I can fit it all into my schedule. It all depends on what you want to, what you want to do. And I encourage any realtor to try maybe a committee as opposed to volunteering, and that will get your feet wet. You'll see that the time is not overwhelming whatsoever.
Great. How about you, Christine? What would your advice be to those that are considering it but are wary of the time commitment?
Well, I would like to agree with Cheryl on that. I think that, we may meet, 3 or 4 times a year. If you're assigned a file that you have to do a little bit more research or, spend a little bit more time on, it isn't that much. And again, as a busy realtor, you just etch out that time. And I think that being on one committee and getting your feet wet, in the beginning is the best way to go. Don't jump into 5 committees all at once because you will become overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But one committee and then maybe adding a second committee as you move forward, and then seeing how that time works. Not every committee, meets as often as other committees. Sometimes they're on an as is, as needed basis. So time commitment, I haven't found it's terribly strenuous. Work expands to the time frame allotted. So if you put it in your schedule and a few months ahead of time, then you're able to adjust your time accordingly. So I think the enhancement of being on a committee far outweighs the time committed to that.
Great. And just the committee you were alluding to with the files and the research and such, that's the Professional Standards Committee. I would say that one probably has one of the higher workloads when cases actually come in than other committees. So that not all committees do you get assigned research and things like that. So just to clarify that point just a little bit. And Alan, for you, your advice on those that are considering it, but however have concerns on the time commitment?
Yeah, and that was certainly a reservation of mine. I had a bit of experience with the Valley Board of how much time it was going to take, and so when I went from a Valley Board at the time, and there was 140 members, and then I was going to decide to volunteer with an Nsair, which had at that time the members were I think 1,500. So, but the one thing I noticed that I actually spent more time. Serving on the Valley Board, it took more time out of my day, and mostly because we didn't have the staff that Nsair has. And so one thing I would say is that the staff do such a wonderful job at supporting the volunteers and supporting all the committees that it really takes a lot of pressure off of the volunteers. And it's just, I can't praise the staff enough for everything that they've done. Certainly for me and for the committees I've served on over the years, and they do such a great job. And so, yeah, again, with most of the committees, you're meeting, 3 or 4 times a year. Some you don't meet, maybe you only meet once or twice a year. And you're not alone. So there's so many different other people that will share the workload, and it doesn't, I've enjoyed my time, and actually there's certain things that committees I've sat on that I certainly miss. And just because you build relationships, and so it doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It feels like something that's you're really enriching yourself, and you're building such great relationships, and you're learning so much that the time commitment just doesn't even it doesn't even enter into your mind once you're doing it, because you just work around it. And we always have so much notice, and that's again with the staff, like we're never called. We know weeks and weeks ahead of time when our meetings are going to be, and usually the meetings are an hour or 2, so at the most. So it really is easy to work around, and Nsair makes it really easy to schedule around meetings and that kind of stuff. So,
Roger, can I just jump in and add one more thing?
Absolutely.
I think that there were 2 things that are important for people to understand. I think we have fun on the committees, and I think that those relationships that we build, as Alan had mentioned, I think they're fun. It's a little bit entertaining, and I think the sense of pride it gives us in our profession is something to be said. I'm proud to be on the committees, and I'm proud to have to give back a little bit. And I think people all come out of there feeling that they've accomplished something, that, there's a sense of pride that, our industry has grown and our industry has become better. And it's because of those volunteers who have devoted their time to those committees.
I was really hoping that comment would come out today, and no, I didn't. I didn't prompt Christine to say that, but I was really hoping that somewhere along the line, someone would say that they were proud of what the committees has done. It's always nice, in my opinion, in my experience with volunteering with other organizations, it's always nice to see some of the work that you've put in come to fruition. And I think, Cheryl, you had mentioned the PMAC committee and some of the work they have done. When you see government relations get a win, and we all know sometimes that's a long time coming, but it's always nice when you see a win, or see, for example, an MLS rule get put into place, or a PSC file get put to bed, that sort of thing. It's always nice to know that you've given back to the industry in a positive way. Well, one of the other, I'm sort of going off script here a little bit, but I think it's important for those who are considering volunteering with Nsair. One of the other, I guess, reasons folks give for not volunteering, and this one's more for you, Alan, and you, Cheryl, where you're outside of Halifax, is the travel commitment for committees. And I know prior or pre-COVID, we were using Zoom a little bit, but now everyone is familiar with Zoom or the like. I think both of you, if I'm not mistaken, have had experience, and you, Christine, as well, on PSC, where PSC has actually used Zoom for a committee meeting where there's only one file to discuss. So rather than bring folks in from Cape Breton or Yarmouth or the Valley, we'll conduct the meeting via Zoom, so that you're not committing a whole day to travel to come in for a 2-hour meeting. So maybe you could just talk a little bit on that, like just the benefit of using technology for committee meetings. Like we do that, so to speak.
I'll start with that. I don't have to travel because I'm right in HRM here. So, that was certainly a time saver for me. But with the COVID restrictions, as you said, Roger, we've certainly learned to use our technology better, and everybody has learned to use it better. So sometimes, we had been using it for a number of years, regardless, but when we would invite people in, it was a learning curve for them to use the Zoom or the GoToMeeting, or there's a multitude of other platforms out there. So I do think it saves time, and if there's just one issue, or if we want to jump on quickly and do a 15-minute conversation about one item, I think that has made us become more efficient. If somebody's on vacation, there are 3 instances I can think of when, even before COVID, when I was on vacation, and oftentimes I'll try to book my vacation around when the meetings are, but certainly there were times I was on vacation and I just jumped on Zoom, and it makes life easier, and then you don't feel like you're missing out on something, especially if you're involved in an active file of any kind. Your presence is required and important and noted when you are at those meetings. And this way we can jump on, jump off, and then we're on with our day. And everybody's busy. It's a busy life now. And so that just makes it a lot more convenient. And it's more cost effective, if you will, instead of, time certainly is an issue, but it's cost effective because then we're not, investing in, gas to drive to and from, and hotels and that kind of thing. So I think COVID overall, not just for, volunteering in the committees and so on, but overall, I think it has made us more efficient. I think we've relaxed a little bit with it when our kids and our dogs are around us, and it makes us more real as humans, and certainly, as realtors interacting with each other on the committees, it makes us real to each other. So I think the technology is, and I think it's here to stay. I think more and more committees and committee chairs will opt to do the Zoom or the GoToMeetings or that kind of thing. I think they'll opt for that more and more as we move forward.
Alan and Cheryl, anything to add?
I think Christine covered quite a bit of that, but one thing, keep in mind, if you do travel from Cape Breton and you go to Halifax, it's at no cost. You're out your time, and that's it. And that's all part of being a volunteer, just to hit on that in case somebody is curious about that. I think some committees do need the interaction of a personal, I guess, a personal nature. However, I feel for a couple of others that committees that I serve on, I feel we accomplished quite a bit through just quick meetings here, quick emails, and so on and so forth. For example, the MLS, it was more or less we could just kind of put things out and get people's perspective on it, and then Bonnie would go back and change the policy, and things seem to get accomplished quicker. So yeah, it's a real benefit through these Zoom meetings, of course, and I respect both.
Mm-hmm. Alan?
I think Christine and Cheryl really covered a lot of this. I will say that I do miss coming in NSAR and seeing the faces of everyone. But yeah, I mean, Zoom certainly, it is an efficient way to do a meeting, and I find we can get a lot accomplished in a short amount of time. But yeah, there are some cases, I agree with Cheryl, where you can't replace sitting at a table with your colleagues and with your other committee members. I drive, when I had meetings, I was driving from the valley. It wasn't that, it was an hour at the most. He would often just give me an excuse to, it would give me an excuse to go shopping or to do a few errands that I needed to do. So, it wasn't never really an inconvenience. And again, Nsar has always done a great job before Zoom. When it was if it was a weather issue, they were wonderful at accommodating. Go up the night before, and so you're there, safe and sound. And it was it was always done very well to make sure everyone was safe. And so yeah, that's certainly never been a deterrent for me.
So just to recap before I get to the final question. So with regards to the time commitment, it's not a great time commitment. You folks have said, perhaps start off with one committee, get your feet wet. It's a great learning experience. We will use technology when it's appropriate for those of you in the outer regions like Amherst, Yarmouth, Cape Breton. However, we try to have at least one committee meeting in person a year, so you get to meet the folks that you're actually sitting on a committee with. And then finally, great experience. And the NSAR does cover any travel expenses, so we do reimburse 50 cents a kilometer. And if you're coming in from Yarmouth or Cape Breton, we will put you in a hotel for the night before a committee meeting. So you're not, especially if coming from Cape Breton, it's approximately a 5-hour drive each way. So that's essentially a day there. So just to recap on that. And yes, Costco has let us know that when we do have board meetings and committee meetings, they see an uptick in their business from being a little facetious there, sorry. So lastly, and I guess I'll start with you, Christine, an accomplishment you are proud of while volunteering at Nsair.
I think that my accomplishment that I want to mention is, I think we bring light to a better knowledge of the rules and regulations of our industry. That's what I think, not my own personal accomplishment, but the accomplishment of the committees as a whole. I think that's what we do. We bring that light, we bring that knowledge to people, and you know, to those rules and regulations in our industry. So I would say that that would be what I'm most proud that these committees do.
Awesome. Alan?
Yeah, it's interesting that Christine, that's kind of what Christine said, because I was thinking something similar. Like, you know, for an accomplishment that I'm proud of, it wouldn't be an accomplishment of mine, myself. It would be an accomplishment of the committee that we're sitting on and the group of people that surround me, because there's so much work that goes into you know, certain things. And when you you know, sometimes when you start the process, it's you know, you don't know exactly where it's going to go sometimes. And so and sometimes where you think it's going to go is not where it goes. Once everyone has a chat, I've gone into many meetings with a certain you know, a certain thought process or a certain expectation of how I think I would react, or what my opinion is on something. And then you hear different opinions around the table, and you hear different thoughts. And I can't count how many times after listening to everybody's point of view, I've changed where my head is at. And so I think that's the big accomplishment for me, is that there's so many minds and so many different thoughts around the table, that's the accomplishment, is that you can create something so great, and that you couldn't do on your own. And so it would be wrong for me to say that I own an accomplishment, because the group owns that together, and they work together to get to that point. And there's been so many things over the years that the committees I've sat on have done to better the industry, that I'm just really proud that I can be part of it.
Fantastic. And Cheryl?
Well, I don't know if I could add too much, but I mean, any successful achievement is gratifying to everybody. I truly believe that. And by us volunteering, it's not a personal achievement per se, but just to see the different things that you can accomplish in such a short time, which your time is just volunteering. I think it's just it's a great takeaway. It's a great feeling, and you own it with pride. And it's not just a personal thing. You achieved it with a group of people who had totally different perspectives when you looked at that one objective. I think it goes a long way, and it's not a personal takeaway, but it's a great feeling at the end of the day, knowing that you accomplished something like that.
Absolutely. And before I get to the questions, I just wanted to make one comment to you three, and for anyone listening. As the CEO of the organization, we could not achieve our strategic plan or move the association forward without the great work of the volunteers who serve on our committees. They truly are the lifeblood of the association. Alan, you had said a few kind words about the staff here, and the staff here are phenomenal. And they do a lot of work behind the scenes, but they take their direction from the board of directors and from the committees. And without you folks serving on your committees and your board of directors, we really would have nothing to work on, so to speak. So I want to truly thank all the 100+ volunteers that we do have, and strongly encourage, we have just over 1,600 members now. Everyone should be volunteering for something. And we've made a conscious effort the last 4 or 5 years to everyone who has volunteered, we will put you on a committee somewhere, or on a task force, or on a work group. There's no fear that you won't be assigned to something. And I think it's safe to say everyone has enjoyed their experience. But I did want to give you, the volunteers, a pat on the back, because we really wouldn't be able to achieve what we achieve without your time, your commitment, and your enthusiasm. And it's quite clear all three are very enthusiastic about volunteering for Nsair. So from me, thank you very much for your time. And now, Tanya, will turn it over. Are there any questions from the audience?
There aren't, Roger, at this time, but I am sure if people do have questions, they can reach out to NSAR or any volunteer with NSAR at any time. And we'll remind folks that we do have an easier application process to apply for a committee this year, and the call for general volunteering for committees will be held later in the fall.
In November, and no more resumes. You don't have to submit a resume anymore. And as Tanya alluded to, it's more of a streamlined application process. So thank you all. Thank you, Alan, Cheryl, Christine, for taking the time out to volunteer for this webinar. And stay dry today, and happy listing hunting. Happy hunting for listings.
Thank you, Roger. It's been a pleasure.
you.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.